Hello everyone, this is CJNovo992 and today we're back for another brand new video and now we're back to domestic action, so we're here to talk about absolute carnage and chaos, and that's exactly what that was. As not only were the lambs silenced, but so was another fan base that tuned in and drones to watch Hagi wrap one in at the top bin in the only way that Hagi could possibly do that. Now of course it's obviously just delaying the inevitable, but the way that it actually unfolded and the manner in which it did against the team that it did make me kind of chuckle, especially the way we clearly didn't prioritise this game at all. I mean, if you ever want a manager to come out and show you a starting 11 that shows they didn't care about this game, that's exactly what we got. Is it wasn't one or two changes, it was 9 overall changes made in the game of football, as Barry Ferguson ran the changes and made it clear to every single person that would be paying attention that this game right here is meaningless in where Rangers sit this season. That our priorities, our focus, our hopes and dreams were clearly on Thursday, but it also just highlighted how much of a almost unnecessary distraction this game was versus Aberdeen. And that's despite the opposition dying for this game to mean more to us, because it means so much to them, but it means very little to us. And I think that was backed up and showed up the day. You know what I mean? I hate you. I don't think about you at all. That was the game right there. We've got bigger fish to fry, and that doesn't come against Aberdeen up at pittrode in Scottish football. It comes on Thursday when we're fighting for a chance to play in a European semi-final. So I've loved pretty much everything we've done prior to kick-off. Had a lot of problems when kick-off went, but we will get there. But in terms of the rotation, I see some people slamming saying, oh, this is embarrassing, blah blah blah. But again, where we sit in our season, what's left to fight for, I like that Barry's gave us the best possible chance to go in to Thursday to try and defy the odds of reaching that semi-final, because we know what these games are versus Aberdeen. We saw some of the handbags during the game. We saw some of the handbags after the game. It's always feisty. Someone's always getting injured and there's always a bite to a game. So why risk our players that have bigger fish to fry on the Sunday when the main show is on the Thursday? So he did rotate, right? And that is obviously clearly protecting our players to give us the best chance. But you know what it also does is it gives us, the Rangers fans, a chance to look at some of these other players, because we're voiced our opinion all season long, because it's the same players picked every week during the worst season I've ever seen a Rangers team play in the top flight, considering the wages these players get paid, right? We've had our saying A, B, C, D, E, F and G. So what the 9 changes showed us today is, what about the other guys in the building? What about the guys that's in the sort of the sideline here when the team photos are getting done? Is there anything better in the building that we're not actually getting seen? Pick Barry, opened the door, chucked the 9 of them out there. Well, not all the full 9, but chucked a lot of them out there and says, go out there and show me, because this isn't a meaningless dead rubber in terms of there's no bite to the game. It's going to be walking football. It's going to be a glorified friendly, which some games can be when you play against teams towards the end of the season when there's nothing left to fight for, nothing left to play for. You know the games I'm talking about. It is glorified friendlies, right? And despite us clearly having more focus on Thursday, Aberdeen treat this game like a cup final, so they're going to give you their absolute all and absolute best, and that's when you truly test what these players actually have in them, and that's when we can actually learn, that's when we can look, and that's when we can know if these players that haven't been getting picked all season during a horrific season, if they're actually good enough and should have been getting more chances, or does it back up the decision why a lot of them haven't been getting picked, and has a lot of them punched their ticket? And I think the day, ladies and gentlemen, despite a 2-0 coming back down to a cheeky draw, I think a lot of them has punched that ticket, and they've showed us why they've not been getting played and why going into next season they shouldn't be here. So I guess when you take a step back and you look at it from that perspective, despite us not getting the win, which you always want to see your team actually win, when you look at the objective, you look at the experiment that we almost put out in place there to get through the weekend without any injuries to the major players that we'll be playing on Thursday. Tick. Now granted we did get an injury, but it's a Rangers game, somebody's going to drop at one point. And 2, we got valuable lessons and understanding of who can make it and who can't in a Rangers team. So aye, it's about as best as you're going to get from an ugly season, and that's how I saw Aberdeen 2, Rangers 2, an experiment that had very, very telling results. But again, that's who I feel as a Rangers fan looking at this game. If you're an Aberdeen fan, you must be absolutely disgusted, because if you look at this game of football, Aberdeen just played the B team / reserve team filled with players that's not been playing a lot of football, that aren't fully fit, that aren't ready to go. And not only did they get the advantage to take the lead in the game, they then had another major advantage of playing against 10 men for over an hour in the game, yet they still couldn't beat the backup reserve team, half-focused Rangers side, who are all looking forward to Thursday. Is that not a wee bit of a glaring sign of just how poor the quality is and how poor this Aberdeen side? Actually, this is a side that's fighting for the third place. We're setting troops, but this is the gulf in quality. Their backup reserve team, unfit, unfocused players, still can't be beat for Aberdeen at home when every advantage is handed to them. But hey, at least they got to sing Barry Ferguson's name for about 12 to 13 minutes, so maybe that's a success. And if the roles were reversed and we were playing Celtic in this type of game and they made those types of changes, we couldn't go and beat them, and we ended up throwing that game away, I'd be absolutely livid. So I've no idea what all 17 Aberdeen fans are thinking tonight, but it can't be good thoughts. But let's go ahead and talk about the game then, shall we? Again, 9 changes were made, with only Liam Kelly and Robin Proper. It was starting from Thursday's main event. The rest of it was changed, and again, a lot of them were given opportunities. Now again, there is a couple names in there, despite me mentioning reserves and backup, the likes of Igamane and Danilo, 2 players I want to see a hell of a lot in our actual main squad when we're playing properly, especially Igamane. But you know my opinions, my thoughts and opinions, I've said them a lot on Igamane, and we will touch on him later on as we get to the video. But I want to start not front to back, I want to start from back to front, because I want to talk about this back line that started this game of football up against Aberdeen in their cup final. You're talking about Rafael Fernandez, who I was 1 week away from printing his face and fire it on milk cartons, because I thought this boy's been missing. He was going ahead and partnering the likes of Clinton Nisala, who the last time we seen him, he was hauled off again after really struggling over his last 2-3 appearances. And what's plumped in the middle of that unusual, unpredictable sandwich? Robin Proper, who played 11 minutes on Thursday night and got sent off and nearly threw away the European campaign. That back line was terrifying, but again, it shows you how we were feeling and what we were thinking going in to this game. Now, unfortunately, Rafael Fernandez breaks down about 20 minutes into the game of football, but again, he's barely played any football. That's always a risk if you pull these players out from the cold. But I do want to talk about Clinton Nisala, actually, because listen, it wasn't a perfect performance, it wasn't a perfect result, and it certainly wasn't a perfect game. But if you're trying to take positives away, and it's not all failures for a lot of these players and a lot of negatives, one of the people that was given a chance today that I actually thought played really well, or was at least a positive, was Clinton Nisala, because you're talking about going up there with that scenario we've already went through numerous times in today's video, and then gone down to 10 men with all the pressure and the atmosphere in Aberdeen even having a 2-0 lead. That could have been easy for him to fall back to previous habits and completely fall apart, but he stood up. He was strong, and I think he actually got better as the game went on. He had a couple big blocks, one of them especially on Leighton Clarkson, that would have made it 3-0 at one point, that would have effectively, and well, it would have ended the game. He put his body on the line numerous times, and I actually watched the back line, especially when we shifted to a back 4 in the second half, and I thought he looked more assured again than Proper, and really surprised me. So again, I know there's negatives with mccaulsands and all these guys and the other guys you're frustrated with, and it isn't a perfect day to talk about football, but one of the positives surely has to be Nisala, who was chucked in to the firing line but stood up and was accounted for. So aye, for me, he's fought for his Rangers future, and I think he's secured it going in to next season. Excited to see what you're going to say down in the comment section. Do you agree, or do you just think he was about as painfully average as a lot of them today? I think he's more positive than negative, and that's how I felt, especially in that back line. But moving slightly forward is when we're going to start to speak about some of the negatives, and that's obviously going to be the wing backs. Now, I thought Curtis really put himself about. I mean, in the 5th minute of the game of football, as we sort of transition in to the game recap, after a partner play in which Aberdeen tried to get on the ball, they tried to run down, Curtis actually puts in a good slide challenge. I went, that's no his game, and I think people are taking this for granted that he's able just to chuck in. Now, that was his first start in the SPFL, and he's playing a left wing back role that we've seen Jeff Day and Ridvan Day to very, very mixed results. You're seeing a young attacking winger who scores a lot of goals at the youth level needing to dig in and go into that atmosphere. I thought he started the game off well, but the best thing I think you can say about Curtis is he wasn't the worst wing back on the day. Nah, that's unfortunately the other side, and it's a shame, right, because I've been kind of expecting this to happen. We kind of touched on this months and months ago when everyone was getting really high, you know what I mean? When he first burst onto the scene, everyone was loving him, everyone was singing his praise, and I said there is a wee bit the Glenn Middleton-itis about this. He's starting off really well, but he's going to start to go low soon, and it's about whether or not he bounces back. Glenn couldn't get an opportunity to bounce back. McCaulsands playing badly, he'll get a chance, but he's got to take it, he's got to take it. Well, ladies and gentlemen, he got his chance to sort of flip his spiralling Rangers career, and for me, not only did he not take it, for me he looked absolutely lost and miles away for the level required. And I didn't like saying that about young laddies, especially because I know they are going to have peaks and valleys and they're going to go up and down, but eventually you do need to take an opportunity. This is a guy that's been in and around the first team now for, 18 months. This isn't a Finlay Curtis situation. This isn't a Bailey Rice situation. This isn't even a Jeff Day situation here. He's actually more experienced than all these players, and he's got to be further along. But not only was he poor, he was absolutely awful, and he should have been ripped off, I swear, 10 minutes into the game. He was absolutely all over the place. He was miles out of position. He was abandoning. He wasn't talking to anybody. He couldn't keep any crosses in the stadium. He was pulling people down in stupid fouls. He looked like a guy that had just turned up as your pal, your matey, your pal, because the numbers were low, and he's just running about trying to make things happen. And again, I'm not going to go into too much because I don't want to seem like I'm picking on the laddie, but again, if you're picked and you're put in the firing line at that, when you've had the amount of experience and the time in the firing line, when you're played for your country, when you've had, it's got to be better than that, and it wasn't. And for me, all the jokes are about Rafael Fernandez's Rangers career being over because it looked like he's pulled his hamstring, and clearly we're no exercise in that bid to keep his load because he's just never ever played. But I think we saw two Rangers careers at least get killed this afternoon. That's Rafael Fernandez. He'll probably never play for Rangers again, and I think Ross McCausland's Rangers career, whether he plays a couple minutes here or there in the next couple SPFL games, is over in my opinion. And again, he got the opportunity, he just couldn't take it. It's harsh, it's blunt, but that's what football is, troops, and I think McCausland's played his last meaningful minutes in a Rangers team. But you might be noticing I'm not really talking about big things here or big talking points because there wasn't too many in the first 15-20 minutes. You had a good bit of defensive covering for Rafael Fernandez, and I think it's here is when he actually pops his hammy, if I'm honest with you, right? Because it looks like he loses the duel, and I'm like, oh, here we go, another player getting behind. But he's got that pace, he's got that physicality to get back. He does brilliant duel the Aberdeen player off the goal. He comes and gets it, but then he's holding his hammy like that. He's trying to pop it. He's trying to continue to ask to play. He's like, nah, but eventually does go down and ends up getting substituted off as James Henry comes on the park. Again, it's no Suter. It was James Henry, and you're thinking, okay, and did his experience and his leadership help the Rangers team at this point that was just going through the motions? Nah, if anything, he actually got spun 1 minute, 2 minutes into the game of football. Clearly no had a warm-up, but Shinnie took him to the cleaners down the spotlight, fired in a cross. This time it didn't reach the opposition, but obviously it did 5-6 minutes later, and the boy should burst the back in it. But again, it wasn't a substitution that lifted the game. It just continued to let it spiral. And again, that right-hand side especially was rotten. Now, from the attacking areas, there was a couple wee moments where I thought Danilo, Igamane and Cortez linked up, but you can see these guys haven't played a lot of minutes with each other. Again, they're looking like strangers out there. Cortez seems miles and miles away for a player that we should be spending £4 million on, but the obligation's there to buy, and I can only hope if he just stays injury free and gets a run, he'll start to look like the player he could have possibly been at the start of January last season when we brought him in, or I think it was February that we actually brought him in and he started to play really really, really well. But there was a couple wee moments, but heavy touch here, heavy touch there, and it was just falling away. And when you didn't have nothing going forward and you're just coming back, and when you're as defensively poor as we are, you know you're asking for trouble. And we Curtis's time to get his scants pulled down as Morris again. There's a beautiful wee, it was almost like a bird camp turn here, if I'm honest. It's just great football. Does it drop to him a bit, luckily, because it bounces off Barron and drops to him? Aye, but see the skill to get by Curtis, man, you can't really blame him here. It's just a great move, but thankfully Morris again drags the shot away, and you're thinking, right, we get away with that one. But then the right hand side was just back at it again, and this is when Shinnie took Tav solo, as we've already mentioned. He's already had 1v1 versus Tav and beat him down. This time he not only beats him, but Tav ends up on the deck. He picks out the big centre half in the middle. The big centre half was in the middle of the box, by the way. It shows you how attacking Aberdeen actually were, but he misses just an open goal, you know what I mean? It was Dessers-esque, if you will. Aberdeen had a touch of the Dessers-itis, and I'm thankful for that. It could have been a hell of a lot worse, especially in that first half an hour, but we all know where we're going next. And again, unfortunately, Ross McCaulsands puts himself into the headlines and into the conversation points for all the wrong reasons, as I just think this is daft. He just doesn't need to slide in from behind here. He's already had one warning for going in behind somebody in the middle of the sort of the halfway line, but this time he just comes in from behind. He's never getting the ball. He gives a free kick away, and it's just silly, needless stuff. Now, the free kick, I'd actually say Kelly, hero on the first. Can he take a step? Can he? Should he? I don't know. You can let me know in the comments section below. And I know it's a fantastic free kick, and if Tav scored it, I'd be absolutely loving life and everything like that. But can Kelly just take one step and maybe get the pot there? Can the Waddy a wee bit more? It was the smallest wall I've ever seen, and they all broke away. There's just so many comedy errors and so many possible pathways to failure, but that's what this Rangers team is. But Clarkson steps up and scores a screamer of a free kick, but there's a lot of blame to go around for how the free kick was won, to the War responded to it, and how brave they won there, and in Kelly's overall positioning. But whether you want to say it's a great free kick or unstoppable, or we could have actually stopped it or no, it's 1-0 to Aberdeen, and clearly they deserved it. Now, before we go ahead and talk about the moment we know we're going to have to talk about, I do want to say the one thing that McCausland did do right on the day. Again, it wasn't very much, but the one thing he kept in the park, he put across to the back post that gets flicked on. Igamane brings it down on the old chest, hits a volley, but it's easily saved by the goalie. But again, even for that, I was hoping, right, Ross, you're playing absolutely barking, but there's a wee cross that's led to a shot. Just settle in the game. But literally from that punt up the park, he's miles and miles out of position, so he tries to sprint to do it, and then he just comes from behind again to do a slide challenge. He's never ever gonna win. There's your second yellow card. There's your watching a Rangers team 1-0 down, now down to 10 men yet again, and it's one of our players that is obviously young, but it's got more experience than a lot of players that are actually getting played right there, and it's so damn poor. I get he's a winger, he's obviously more of an attacker, but he's played this right wing back role a couple of times now for Rangers. He's actually played right back a couple of times for Rangers this season. To think he can go for that on a booting, he's got to be smarter than that. But again, he ends up doing the daft challenge, gets punished correctly by the referee. I've not got any problems. The referee got this one spot on, and Ross McCausland sent for an early bath. But as harsh as this is going to sound, it was probably the best thing for Rangers and us Rangers fans possible that he got removed off the park. Whether it was a red card or a sub, he had to get off because he was so far off the game, and he was just causing gaps everywhere. At least after he got sent off, we could tweak and change the formation, put somebody else out there, and just to try to keep the game alive. But again, before we could get into halftime and really tweak and change the tactics, we had to try to do it on the fly. You've already lost your centre half there. You've got an experienced backline and inexperienced midfield. The attacks played not one game with each other if you look at it, and you're up against them, where again that clearly means so much to them. It was always going to be a recipe for disaster, and it was only a matter of when, not if, the second goal went in. And aye, it came what, 6-7 minutes after. But maybe to keep all our opinions balanced and keep this video balanced, where does the goal actually come down for? It's actually the other side, as again Curtis is then getting bunt. The ball gets put in and it's smashed into the back of net, and it's a very, very good goal for Aberdeen. But again, just defensively not good enough. But again, we just set our team up to be that vulnerable. We're doing to 10 men. People are needing to fill in gaps, and the gaps were going to be exploited. The only thing you would say, before the first half ended, we could plug a lot of those gaps. We end up having the ball in the back of our net ourselves, almost out of nothing. And again, a lot of this is on the back of young Curtis, who's having a tough education in his first start in the SPFL, and he runs down the left hand side, holds off a body. It's normally been Morris that's doing it to him, but now he's one of him. He runs to the byline, picks out Danilo, big header, very, very good save. Igamane on his toes, no standing about, no 15 yards outside the box. He's standing in the right area, tucks it away, and I'm thinking, how on earth have we got a goal? But then the goal's eventually ruled out, as the ball did, I believe, go outside. Now again, I'm not seeing any concrete proof or anything like this, and I know there is this Celtic incident versus Hibs a couple of weeks ago that was dominating the SPFL news and everybody was talking about it, but it wasn't given. You can't see rightly or wrongly, but all I would say is surely they've got to get some sort of technology that tells them if it's in or out, if this is causing such a problem. But again, at least Curtis responded, and that was very, very big, and that just gave us a wee bit of boost. Despite it being chopped up, you felt, you know what, even down to 10 men, even with the changes, even with the reserves playing right now, we can actually get at this back line. And I know it wasn't given, but I think psychologically that maybe put something into these Rangers players' heads at half time, and maybe even planted something in the Aberdeen's head, because I don't know what the hell went wrong with Aberdeen in that second half. We obviously made some changes. We made a dirty double as Diamande and obviously Jeffy came on, and Jeffy came on to the left hand side and improved us defensively, troops, you know what I mean? And just to put out how badly Ross McCaulsand went in and played, see when McCaulsand got sent off, Jeffy went like that. That's how bad of a defensive decision Ross McCaulsand went ahead and made, when Jeffy's shaking his head in disbelief. That's what we've done all season long. But aye, it was manic. But again, what you've got to say, the changes for Barry Ferguson helped change the game. We plugged the gaps, we got a bit more solid, and then for large periods of the game we had the football, and it was almost like we're actually playing well now. How bad is this Aberdeen team? Now granted, we did get the best possible start in the second half as the ball goes long. Curtis flicks the header on, it goes to Eggman, he's got 3 defenders on him, holds one off, pulls it to the left, buries it with his weak foot. This boy's special, just play him as a striker, tucks it away, and you thought, right, yeah, Eggman is a wee bit sorry. And I seen a lot of conversation at half time, and I got a wee bit of flack as well, because again, I'm a big Eggman fan. This is why Dessler starts, because Eggman doesn't do that to try and judge Eggman's lack of movement or what was created for him or the chances he was made. He doesn't move, so he doesn't get as many chances. No, look at the team that Eggman's playing with in that first half, and the way that Eggman went to play in the second half only increases his stock, takes nothing away, in my opinion, and it can show you what the future could be if we just played our most promising striker as a striker. But after the equaliser, we couldn't really string too much and pass. Hagi come on, and you saw me on social media, I said he's either scoring the day or he's gone ahead and getting sent off and taking us down to 9, because clearly that boy just loves everything about this football club, and he's got the battle fever right now. You saw that on Thursday night, right? But again, there was some wee half chances for Aberdeen. There was a couple wee long shot, there was a couple wee crosses, but I thought Jeff at the back post was brilliant. He ends up taking a Syrian in for Nisbet, but it's right in the right area. Shinnie, brilliant ball to the back post, big for Jeff. There was a block for Nisala that I think we've already mentioned earlier on, and to be fair, Proper got his head into a dangerous one as well, and the biggest or best save that Kelly had to make up to this point was a Shinnie long shot. They had to get low for, but it's never beaten a keeper of Kelly's quality, and it's good that he's had it. But I thought some of these set pieces coming out getting was really big as well, and that just gave us a platform just to hang about. You know what I mean? We weren't great, we weren't amazing, but we were just hanging about, and people were throwing their bodies on the line, and some of them were up for the fight. Now, Diamande, I thought, added a different dimension to our midfield, but he does make a big mistake and give Aberdeen their biggest chance in the second half about the 71st minute, right? He tries to usher the ball out, but there is a wee slight shove on the back. He ends up floating, but they'd allow it to cut it back to Nisbet, and Nisbet's got to burst it back in it, but Nisbet doesn't, and it's just wee bits like that, because we're normally the team. We're normally Aberdeen in this occasion. It's having all the nice shots, and it's getting everything blocked on the line, or it's missing the gilt chances, and that other team, the Motherwells, the St Mirren, the Ross Counties, the Kilmarnocks, the etceteras, the Hexer, just there hanging about. Well, the roles were reversed today. And that's all we did. We just hung about and did what we needed today. And it just kept building and building the nerves in the stadium and clearly in the Aberdeen's perspective. Now, again, they did actually put the ball into the back of it before we went ahead and did it. And this is by the time that Dessers and everything comes on now as well. But they do end up scoring. And for me, it's a clear handball. I'm not really getting it right. The cross comes in, puts it into a dangerous area. Dessers, I don't know what Dessers is doing. Just a little way, man. But he kind of brings it down in the middle of the box. It ends up dropping to, I think, Nisbet, who sort of swings and hits it. Comes up, hits his hand, and then at the second time he asks him, bursts it back in it. But when I seen it, I wasn't worried because I went, that's a handball every day of the week. And again, even wee things like that, when you get the excitement and, oh, that's us won, hey, bye, all the things they were singing and everything like that, everything they were doing, another goal chopped off, and you just thought, let the chance fall to one of our good players, because there's always a chance. Didn't let it go to Dessers. He's already missed the header a minute prior when the ball came in, and the goalie's missed it completely, and he's blue. Didn't let it go to Dessers. Please let it go to somebody else. Unfortunately, it never, troops, and it did fall to our boy Dessers. But where it starts is what I want to talk about the most, because it's Hagi in and amongst it again. He wins the duel. He plays a gorgeous through ball, chipped over the top to Dessers. He's 1v1. He's just got to hit the target, and it's busted back in it. But he hits the inside of the post, and it comes back out. But it bounces back to Jeff. And remember the guy that started the story we have started telling right now. Hagi put him through. Hagi's kept moving. He's almost gambled knowing Dessers, he's missing it. He's screaming at Jeff, just give me it. Just give me it. Jeff plays him a wee ball, and Hagi bursts it back in it with an absolute screamer. And I loved it, shushing everybody and quieting down this BS narrative that's been out there about him wanting to leave. Now, I've discussed this a lot on this channel, right? And I'm not saying I've got inside information, but a lot of the stuff that gets said about this lad or what he's pushing about, it's just drivel. It's crap. It's made up media nonsense, or somebody's took something he said out of context and they put it here and that. And I just didn't get it, because we as Rangers fans especially knows what the media is like, knows that they create narratives and they take things out of context to make their stories to sell clicks and likes. We know that. So why yet, despite us knowing that, we still read something about a lad and then start turning on him and slaughtering him because of what the papers have said? When are we going to learn that they talk crap, troops? And it's been that way for years. Oh, he's telling his agent he wants to leave. Now, somebody never, and we talked about that last summer as well, that's not what we said. All Hagi said is his agent knows what Hagi wants, and everyone read into that as Hagi wants gone, so he's been a villain for a year and a half. And it's just, if you actually track it back to the source of what was actually said, Hagi's never once said he's wanted to leave. And you know, I finally like where he's at in his career, and I love what he said yesterday on social media. In case you've never seen it, the Daily Record or whatever wrote a BS made up story about Hagi saying he was going to leave and he's maybe gone to the likes Athletic Bilbao and everything like that. So Hagi on social media says that's not true, or what is it, fake news or something like that. And then today after the game, he's came out there and said that he underlined it for everybody to listen to. He has never once said he's wanted to leave Rangers. He loves this club and he will continue to give absolute everything he can for this club. Now, that came directly from the player underlining he's never said he wants to leave. So can some of us stop believing the narratives that's getting pushed in papers and using it to be negative towards our players? Can we just let it go, man? He's never said he's wanted. He's never pushed for an exit. The guys took a pay cut to play for this club. Can we stop chasing the ones that actually want to play for the team and maybe start chasing the ones that aren't good enough to play for the team? You know what I mean? That's where we should be. But sorry for almost a long rambling rant there, but I've seen this guy get slaughtered through pillar to post for years, and I've known it for years. It's been made up, and it was nice to see him finally just do what he needed to do and underline it and tell everybody that he's never once asked to leave. So that narrative was quieted, and again Hagi bursted back in it and has the last say in this game to a lot of people that was tuning into this game for different reasons. What they got wasn't what they asked for, but what they got was an incredible goal scored for our boy Hagi. And maybe, just maybe, if you look at it, the way that the goal broke down, is Dessers playing that ball to Jeff who's wide open? What an incredible ball. Dessers just sees things we didn't see. 4D chess, plays it to Jeff, into Hagi so he can have his moment. That's selflessness, if I've ever seen it. VCD number 9. But that's the game, and that's a recap. Now, there was a wee bit of handbags at the end of the game as Shinny was trying to show off, and I think he picked the wrong person in terms of suitor as he just came here and was just like, yeah, wee man, just go take that big beak away from me right now, or I'll pull it off and let you go and you'll fly ere the old stand. And that was all quietened down. But again, it was a spirited fight back. It was yet another spirited fight back, but it's another hole we've put ourselves in where some people showed they want to be here. Some people deserve to actually be here, whilst others again shows why they can't be relied on, to take the big chance. Remember who missed it, ladies and gentlemen, and some of them that are nowhere near the quality if we want to see this team be successful in terms of winning silverware. That's what I got today, and that's how I actually saw it. So I want to fire it over to you down in the old comment section below. I want to know your thoughts and opinions, how you feel about the game, what stood out to you. Did you like what Barry done? Did you not like it? What's your thoughts on Hagi's comments? What's your thoughts on the experiment of the day? Please let me know down in the comment section below, as I love the old interaction. Until next time, I've been CJ092. Thank you so much for watching. All the best, and bye-bye.